Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Normal podcast, where we highlight minority business owners and founders, and we use this platform to shed light on their entrepreneur journey. Welcome, everybody, to the Beyond Normal podcast. I am excited to have Zerryn Gines. He is the co-founder of Peep Connect, which is, building digital communities to help business owners engage with their consumers. Very important in this day and age, in 2020, with just all that's going on, for us to stay connected to our local small businesses. So I appreciate Zerryn coming on for our episode.
Glad to be here, man. Kenny, appreciate you for having me. Hey, everybody. Like I said, Zerryn from Peep Connect. We're ready to get started, so let's get it.
All right, we're going to get right into things. Give the folks a little bit of background around, where you're from, what events, tell your story in terms of leading up to you starting Peep Connect.
Yeah, so I was raised in Kansas City. I had two siblings, two sisters, Brielle and Karis. And then, it was just my mom and dad. We were a middle-class family. And really, ever since we were young, our parents always just kind of pushed us to just go after our dreams. My mom always said, your life is your movie. And so, kind of having that upbringing, my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad both my parents were in real estate. My dad had his own catering company. My mom has a publishing company still to this date. So I've always kind of been around the hustle. I've always been around business, even though I didn't necessarily understand it. There was even some points where I didn't necessarily like it. I was like, I don't want to do that, but I think as I got older, kind of seeing that in that lifestyle, and obviously me just wanting a little bit more and always kind of having that mentality has really kind of helped me get to this point. I really kind of started off in school. I started the first ever financial club we've ever had on my campus. We started that. Grew it up to about 70 students. We raised money to go to a couple conferences. We created our own portfolios and things like that. Everybody in our club was making money and stuff. So I think being able to kind of make a change and see something different and kind of give people, what they want, the world that they want to see, and options for opportunity and stuff like that is something that has always been a part of me and something that has always excited me. So when Val and I talked about Peep Connect and being able to essentially give these small business owners more opportunity, and be able to give them a platform to really be able to connect with more people and stuff like that.
I appreciate you, Zerryn, giving us a little bit of background for you. Obviously, the Midwest, I think, it's interesting hearing, the perspective of you as a Black male growing up in the Midwest, just with the events that happened in 2020. But I wanted to spend a little bit more time on your parents, having that, entrepreneurship really in your blood since a young age. Can you talk about maybe there were certain examples or certain times you growing up where you kind of saw that that hustle mentality, right? Some of those entrepreneur traits from your parents, and it inspired you. In our community, we don't typically highlight, right? We don't typically highlight those entrepreneurs that are doing really great things, just running, everyday businesses, right? We always hear about the entertainment industry, the industries that we all know about, rappers and things like that. But talk a little bit about, having parents that, had that entrepreneurship visible to you at a young age and what that did for you.
I remember the first time I was really like, man, my parents is tight, was we have the Kansas City Star. That's like Kansas City's big newspaper. So if you get into the Kansas City Star, you're that, And I literally have this poster hanging up in my room. My mom got featured in the Kansas City Star, and she put that. It was for her publishing company. She was young, started this publishing company. She was working. Everybody knew her. And so her motivation was, I do this for my kids. I want them to be able to have a life that I didn't have, and they're the ones who kind of keep me going. And so when I seen that, I was like, man, this is amazing. Like, man, my mom's like really, well known. She's famous for, building these businesses and stuff like that. And so, I never really understood why she was always on phone calls when we were, in the car at Walmart or something like that, or she always had to work late. And, I remember there was even times when they were going to look at properties and stuff like that, and I just had to kind of go along with them. And again, I was young. I wasn't really I was just kind of like, this is boring. But as I kind of got older and I really began to get to understand myself a little bit better, my parents' advice, and kind of seeing them hustle and really seeing some of the things that they did, really it just started to click and started to make sense. And I started to understand why I do some of the things that I do. But I mean, I remember when I seen that picture that in the newspaper of my mom, I was like, this is amazing. I was like, I want to be just, I want to be like this, obviously greater, that's just kind of me, but it was really cool to see. So
hearing you tell that story just now, just having that, like you said, that newspaper article, right? That's before social media, probably, right?
Yeah,
was in your life, right? So it's before that. And so that's the way that we got a lot of stuff. So imagine in that time, somebody seeing your mom, a proud Black female, right, in the newspaper like that for something like that. That's incredible. Those are the kind of stories that I think we have those in our lives, but a lot of times, for whatever reason, right, they're just not glamorized the same way that the stereotypical stuff is when it comes to the masses. And it's crazy just seeing you like light up telling that story. And like you said, just realizing like, hey, my parents are dope. Like that's a cool statement to say. So I appreciate you. I definitely appreciate you sharing that. And so you've had entrepreneurship really in your viewpoint, right, for your entire life, right? But now you come to this point where you want to start Peep Connect. Like, what was that moment? Walk us through how you got started and said, all right, this is where I need to spend my time, and this is a very important value add in the current environment.
So I remember 2019. I was like super focused on my career, my career in finance. I was like, hey, I'm about to go work at Goldman Sachs when I get out of here. Like I was, I'm calling all these internships and people, applying for internships and things like that. And I was, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I remember we had the stock club going, I was raising money for that. It was super challenging. And I think when I had got done with raising the money for that and we went on that trip, that was the first time I had realized, like if you really work hard for something, you can have it. Like it'll happen. You just got, you might have to do a lot of work, but it'll happen. And so that was the first time, I was like, okay, maybe doing this full time wouldn't be bad. But really, me and Val talked about, my other co-founder, we had talked about Peep Connect before, this idea of being able to create events and stuff like that. It wasn't even what it has become now. It was originally something else. And we had talked about this and, talked about being nominated for the Forbes 30 under 30, all this stuff, the fame and things like that. And, we talked about it. And I remember when we started, I'm a serious person. Like you can ask anybody, they'll be like, yeah, Zerryn is serious about everything. Even when we have family time and they talking about sports or something like that, I just get serious. I don't know why. That's just kind of how I am. So when we really started working on it, like I was like really like going at this thing like, okay, maybe we can make this pop off. And so I was really going hard at it, and it just kind of, I wasn't really seeing the fruit, but we went and did customer discovery. And when we started doing customer discovery, and I was actually out here talking to these business owners, like me, Zerryn, and Val, talking to these business owners, we just walking up door to door in the middle of a pandemic. So it's kind of different when, everybody's not really, nobody cares about getting sick or nothing like that. But now I actually got to go into these places that I don't know. I got my mask on, which is already difficult. And then I got to go in and ask these business owners like, hey, how have you been marketing? Do you think that there could be a platform that could potentially help you reach more customers? If so, what would that look like? Blah, 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 all those questions for customer discovery. And I was really like, okay, bro, we really got something. Like we really have something. Like seeing seeing these business owners have these issues, and it's crazy because people already say the market is saturated, but seeing that, that's what really was like, okay, yeah, this will be big if we really go about this right, do the things that we do. So I think doing customer discovery really kind of opened my eyes up to, this idea even more. It really kind of changed our direction on where we need to go with this and what we actually need to build to actually help more people and, eventually be able to build a business around this.
And that's I think what you just showed, right, is a great example of, you guys had that initial idea and you guys kind of saw your North Star, but then you got to go out there and you got to validate it.
Right.
And you guys took the free route, right, with the bootstrap way, right, which is going door to door, and just getting that feedback directly, hearing it directly from them verbatim. And even during a time like the pandemic, it's kind of like you guys are searching for validation for the pain point, right? And then for small businesses right now, the ones that are, figuring out how to maintain their, keep their doors open, their pain point is loud and clear, right? And you guys were able to tie that directly to Peep Connect, like the core, right? The core mission of what you guys do. So, I applaud you guys for taking that step during, when COVID first started. Everybody was probably on pins and needles a little bit, right? Like in terms of going places, just having the courage to walk into a place with a mask on. People weren't even willing to do that in certain instances. So you guys.
And I'll be honest with you. I think being in the Midwest actually kind of helped too, because East Coast and West Coast, ain't nobody doing nothing. I mean, I was in New York, and this is in March. Nobody was out. Like, we the only ones really for real out. This is New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Midwest, by the time June hit, I mean, it's sad to say that, but people was it was almost like it was back to normal. But yeah, I mean, Kenny, we talked to about like 200, 300 businesses. I mean, I was tired,
Mm-hmm.
You could see it on my face, but it was crazy. We really did validate it.
I like that. And so you talked about how you guys connected on the North Star, right? You validated your idea, and now you get to the point where now you got to do the work to make the tool a reality. Make the service something tangible for those business owners to those business owners to use.
Right.
And so, I guess, tell us a little bit around, going through that process. Like, what's something that you learned going through that process of setting up your business that maybe you could have utilized earlier on in the process when you guys had that initial idea? Like, what were some of the growing pains that you guys went through?
I would say probably just communication was the biggest thing we just didn't have at the time. Like, I feel like you do need to have a team, but if me and Val if we're not communicating, if our communication isn't 100%, that our communication with the team isn't going to be 100%. And so, we had a lot of hiring. It was a lot of hiring and firing during the time, really trying to find the right pieces and things like that. So I would say communication was really one of the things that me and Val both had to learn how to do very, very, very well, and do it on all cylinders, whether it be fundraising, whether it be, actually going out and doing the work, talking to these business owners, or actually having somebody else do it, and now we have a team now to help us with that. But I think communication was one of the biggest things. And then too, fundraising. I mean, that fundraising is always going to be difficult. It gets frustrating too, because it's like, you validated this, you've done the work, you've put it in, you've put together this presentation and show like, hey, this is what we have done. This is what it's doing for the people right now. Imagine what we can do if we have this amount of money and can reach this amount of people. You know what I mean? So that's always something that's difficult as well. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No, you did. You're painting the picture, right? And
yeah.
Again, like the glamorization of, we think about the Mark Zuckerbergs, we think about Jeff Bezos, some of these entrepreneurs, and it's just like, the way that people paint it, even though those founders don't necessarily paint it that way, but the way that people paint it is that like they had that idea, And then the idea just naturally grew and it just kept growing. And then people gave them money and then, happily ever after. And now they're billionaires.
Yeah.
And I think the point of, part of the reason why I started this this podcast, this platform, right, is for someone like you who's actually going through it day to day, for you to tell people like that good, but then that bad, right?
Yeah.
That comes along with you being the one who's wearing, ultimately the hat that matters. You're the one in charge of, like you said, motivating your team, staying in line with your co-founder, making sure like paying folks, when it comes to paying people to be a part of your team, like, those are not the easiest hats to wear. So I appreciate you, painting that color, painting that picture. And you just touched on something around the fundraising.
Yeah.
I think you told me that you guys actually, have been doing the fundraising, but you guys actually have relied on some of that friends and family round to initially get started. And so I want to put you on the spot just a little bit. How uncomfortable were the conversations in the friends and family round around asking your family and friends for money?
Dude, it was so weird because I was like, I just don't want to lose this relationship. What if this goes wrong? They gonna look at me different. And it really was difficult doing it. I mean, I remember calling my mentor, I'm on my way back home from school. And I remember calling my mentor and asking like, hey, I'm really thinking about pulling the trigger on this thing. I'm thinking about asking everybody, what do you think about that? And he's like, you just got to do what you got to do. If that's what y'all need to really get stuff off the ground, then you just have to do it. And so eventually we did, but it was tough. And everybody, to them, when you ask them, like, they're not really thinking of it like, well, why are you asking me for money? Blah, blah, blah. Go get yourself. They're not really thinking like that. They just like, man, this is actually cool that you're trying to do this. And I think that's too what I realized, closed mouths don't get fed. Like, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes you just gotta get uncomfortable to really, do some things and really receive the things that you want. But it paid off for us. And I think we raised a good amount of money to, get things going off the ground.
I appreciate that. And like you said, like closed mouths don't get fed. I think
Facts.
In 2020, like all the things that we have going on right now is so important. No matter where you're at in your life, for you to speak up and just tell people what you want. Like that's very important in a year like 2020. It's very important overall for people to be able to step up, like you said, embrace. I call it embracing the pause. So I'm in sales, and a lot of times we have those conversations with people, and then you kind of get that awkward silence. Yep. And it's really just allowing people to kind of think about it, but you got to put it out there. It's okay if that awkwardness comes, right? You'll either get a yes or a no. So that's why I always say embracing that pause. But you hit on the main thing that I always say is closed mouths do not get fed.
It makes you stronger. It does make you stronger too, and it gives you I think for me being young, both of us, it gives you like how do I say this? It makes you better. I think and I'll explain myself, but it makes you better in the fact that you're held to a different type of responsibility. Because now it's like, this is family. Like you don't ever want to have any bad blood with your family. So, everything is on the line. Every second counts. Everything you do matters. So, I think by doing that, once you even receive the funding from them, for you yourself, it makes you want to work a lot harder and really be able to give back to your family and give them something that they might not even have ever been presented had you not have done it for them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. One thing that you touched on really throughout the interview is you having the co-founder relationship with Val, right? Your co-founder. Right. And so, tell us about, a little bit about that process of having a co-founder. What do you see as some of the benefit to going into, starting a business with a co-founder like you've done?
I would say it's a couple things. The first thing is that one, it's always cool to be able to bounce ideas off of someone. So like I might have a random idea at like 5 a.m, Me and Val usually aren't up at that time, so I get this idea, or it might be late at night, and it's cool to just be able to like have a co-founder where you can kind of validate this. He can kind of give you his expertise and his thoughts on it, and you guys can kind of go back and forth. And even too, like sometimes your idea might inspire something in him to come up with something even better, which happens a lot for both of us. Like I might say something, he'll take it and be like, man, yeah, that was tight. What if we did this too? And it's like, oh man, I wasn't even thinking that. Or he might say something to me. I'm like, bro, yeah, that's cool. Then what if we did this though? It's a whole lot better. So having that, being able to do that is awesome because you need that. And then it also goes into my second point is like this entrepreneur journey is like, it can be really lonely sometimes. Like it gets difficult. You might get depressed. Sometimes you're not motivated to do nothing, and it's really not for people who aren't disciplined. And it's not for people who, are for the faint at heart. You know what I'm saying? Like you really got to be mentally tough, emotionally tough, and physically tough to be able to do this. Because, me and Val fail way more times than we succeed in anything, and being able to continue to do something when you messing, when you feel like you failing, you feel like it's not going nowhere it's difficult, so having that co-founder makes that process a lot easier because when I might need somebody to pick me up, he's there. When he needs somebody to pick him up, I'm there, and being able to have somebody to keep you accountable, I think that's one of the best things that you can ever have, especially in business.
I think, yeah, like you said, just not feeling like you have to go it alone. I think throughout the process, like you pretty much stated, like community is big for you guys, whether it's, you guys supporting the small business owners in your community with the business, or you reaching out to your family and friends and asking for that money. Like
Right.
you said, like community is a part of that. And so you sharing that with folks, I hope that inspires some of the listeners. Certain folks are going to be on the fence in terms of taking that gamble on themselves, right? Having that side hustle, having that business going full time.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe having that partner, right? That's somebody who can kind of motivate you along the way, like you said, and you're not worried about going it alone, because going something alone is, like you said, the lows are low. Yeah, the lows are definitely low.
Yeah, man.
Um, and so, I want to transition with you being in the Midwest, you being kind of in the epicenter of a lot of the conversations that we've had this year around social injustices,
Yeah.
the COVID impact on the minority communities. We do know that is greater than other, ethnicities in America, along with, the conversations that we're kind of close to closing from a political standpoint, at least in knowing who we're going to have elected. You're in an area that's really been like the hotbed for a lot of these topics. How have these conversations impacted you in 2020, and do you have any idea around how they're going to impact your business moving forward?
I will say, to answer the question about how it's impacted me specifically, it opened my eyes to a lot of stuff, especially being in the Midwest. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing and a bad thing. I would say, I think the crazy thing is I didn't even realize how many soul food restaurants we had in Kansas City until all of this stuff happened, which is crazy, because I like that stuff. But I didn't even realize how many restaurants we had. So I think being able to have more awareness about my culture and what's going on around me, even more than I had known, was awesome. In terms of the business side of things, really, I think too, we actually added a feature for minority-owned businesses. So we got featured in Forbes for this a couple months ago. We have a feature where businesses are able to be identifiable in their community with our MABE tag. So whether you're a minority, Asian, Black, or ethnic, we have a tag for you guys to be more identifiable in the community. So you'll see it on your post when you're actually using the application. And then also from that, we've been able to work with a few companies with some of their technologies, just by being able to be at events and kind of be able to network with these guys and be able to have those conversations about this, has really been able to help us meet a lot of people we might not have been able to meet without this And 2020, it really has been a crazy year, and we've seen a lot of negative things happen. But I think for me, I'm an optimist, and I always look at the good things and try to take the good from it. And for myself and Peep Connect, 2020 hasn't been all bad for us. So, definitely, want to build more awareness around the minority businesses on our platform. And definitely these conversations have helped us tremendously with furthering the business.
And it's great that you have, you can be, like I said, the Midwest is just the center of so many conversations that are happening right now. But for you to
Yeah,
have that forward looking mentality, I think that's something that's, people can look up to, because like you said, it pretty much forces you to open your eyes, right? In terms
you
of,
have to.
like you mentioned, soul food restaurants. For those who don't know, Kansas City claims to and does have the best barbecue. I think you guys would probably
They
say
do.
in the world. And so any barbecue restaurant you go to, there's probably someone of the ethnic background cooking the food in the kitchen. I'm just gonna say, because the food is amazing.
Facts.
So like you said, it just takes. It's kind of like, I even think about here in Charlotte, if I can relate to it, and I'm looking at in my general neighborhood, there isn't a soul food restaurant, but I like Caribbean food, or I want some soul food. You just got to go that extra. You may have to do an extra 5 minute, 10 minute drive. So it's cool that you guys built that in the Peep Connect, so people can find that when they want that type of food. There
Right.
are options out there. It's not like you have to go to the fast food chain right around the corner. You don't always have to do that option. It's healthier. You're going to get fresher products and things like that when you support your local owned businesses, and then you're helping out your community, like you said, right?
Of course. Yeah, and it's crazy because people don't even realize communities statistically bring a 6,500% return on investment to any organization a part of it. So if you're able to build these communities and build a place where everybody knows what's going on, people want to support, they want to give back. This is a way of life for me. You know, Local businesses and small businesses will see some crazy returns that they haven't seen since maybe the 60s and 70s. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? From the community aspect. And just to touch on the racial injustice stuff one more time, because I get passionate about this stuff. But it really has opened my eyes to just being able to see more people, Kenny, like me and you, who are actively trying to make a difference in the world. Oftentimes, kind of like we were talking about earlier, you see the athletes, you see the artists and stuff like that. But when you really kind of see, like, man, look at all these guys who are creating these companies and creating these avenues, these outlets for other people to learn, for other people to grow. I mean, I didn't even know the guy from American Express, the CEO, was black. I didn't know that. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And things like that. It's like, the guy from Calendly. I use Calendly all the time. Co-founder is black guy. It's really cool to see that, and it just makes you feel like, man, I can do this too. You don't feel like, if I'm not playing football or rapping, I just got to go get a job. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. That's my life. You can really do what you want to do. And I really hope that, for the people listening, and any person, out of 2020, I hope that those were some of the things that you've seen is like, man, look at all these people who are building these companies and building these awesome things to contribute to our society and make it better. They look just like me. Like I can do that and really make a difference.
Mm-hmm. It's just being able to know that you can do it, like you said, is that's very powerful. And I think that puts us, I always put it like essentially parity. I call it parity. So when, the next Kenny or the next Zerryn, they graduate from college, or they even as little as, kindergarten, fifth grade, like they're seeing like different people that look like them in different industries, right? And we're not just shoveling the same message to them around being an athlete. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not saying that, but we do want, for every athlete, we do want to see a doctor, we do want to see a
Yep.
lawyer, and we want to see business owners within our community as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, tech is the wave. Like, You know, there should be more Black engineers and Black people creating podcasts and stuff. You know, it should be a lot of us. I mean, you know, we're talented. Man. You know, every race, you know, everybody's talented in their own way. I think people just kind of have to figure out, you know, what is it about myself that makes me different and makes me special. And once you realize that, you know, just go all in on it. Bet on yourself. Telling
you. Can't lose.
You can't, bro.
Yeah, you really can't lose. And so, you know, I just want to say to Zerryn, you know, as we close, you know, I appreciate Zerryn hopping on the episode, you sharing your story with folks. I'm going to pass it to you. Let folks know how they can reach out and stay connected with all the things you're doing over at Peep Connect.
For sure. You know, Kenny, appreciate you having me, man. It was a pleasure. To stay connected with Peep Connect, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handles are on Instagram is just Peep Connect, P-E-E-P Connect. And then on Twitter, it's the exact opposite. So it's just Connect Peep. And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter. Just type in Zerryn, Zerryn, and you'll be able to find me. You'll see a guy smiling, big white teeth. That's me. You know, that's us. Peep Connect will be in much more cities. Summer 2021 will be expanding drastically in the Midwest area, and hopefully we can get out to Charlotte within the next year or two. So appreciate you having me, and, you know, go Peep Connect.
Thanks for that, Zerryn. Yeah, like Zerryn just said, you just go to Google, type in Peep Connect. You're gonna get them. They got all the handles on all the social media on lock. I love seeing that when a business has that.
One more thing. We just dropped some merch. We just dropped our Peep merch. This is the coolest stuff ever. We work with one of the dopest designers I've ever worked with in my life. He really hooked us up. We have our website, peepbusiness.com, P-E-E-P business.com. Go check us out. Go check out our merch. It's cool. You know, if you want to support local businesses and things like that, definitely do it. 10% of all the profits that we make are going to go to charities like Toys for Tots and things like that going into the holidays. So definitely, you know, give back to your community, support these local businesses by buying a shirt. Appreciate it.
I love that. And thanks for adding that in there, Zerryn. And I'll make sure we get that included to the folks in the comments as well. Again, thanks for hopping on, Zerryn, and to the listeners, thanks for tuning into the Beyond Normal podcast. I'm back now.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Normal podcast. We can be streamed across all major streaming platforms in addition to YouTube. Come back again.